our Friday session with DJ and Dan. Now, DJ's running a little late, but today we're going to talk about wins, losses, what we learned, and what we can experience or what we can take from what we learned and manage it and get better on it next week.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
All right, here we go. So results day today. Today is the day where we're going to put a link out into the chat, whether you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and we're going to ask you to come on. Now, depending on how many people get on, because the show is fairly new, ask you to come on, depending on how many people want to share kind of their insights and what's worked and what hasn't worked in the last week. And, I can share with you one perspective that's really shifted for me in the last week was so for those of you that don't necessarily know me, I'm a personal development freak, for lack of a better term. Um, and I was watching, I don't know if you ever seen it. It's entitled Arnold Schwarzenegger, the speech that broke the internet. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen it on YouTube. I should have actually got the link so I could share it with y'all. Oh, you know what I'll do? I'll share it with y'all as I go into the comments and stuff after this session. So I just got a message from David. Oh, DJ. Yeah, there we go. He said he's looking for the link for Restream. So I just got let me just get him in here. Sorry. So I was watching this and it just hit me. So there was a part of the speech where Arnold Schwarzenegger says, everybody would ask me, so many people ask me, what is it? Why are you always smiling? Why is it that, you're in the gym? And I think at that point he said he was in the gym 5 hours a day, which is absolutely insane to be in the gym 5 hours a day. And he said he was in the gym 5 hours a day. And in the gym, he was always smiling. And somebody asked him, why are you always smiling? He says, because every rep, every time I lift a weight, I get closer to Mr. Universe. And he goes, so why would I hate that? I would encourage that and I would bring that in and become just make it part of me. And to me, that totally shifted my perspective this week on, accountability, how we think of things like our sales, like when an obstacle comes up or a challenge comes up with a customer, how do we respond to them? How do we take that challenge and turn it into an opportunity? Because every challenge we face, if you have the perspective that that challenge now becomes an opportunity to get to your Mr. Universe. DJ, welcome,
Love
brother.
it.
I was just
What's
saying
up,
that.
man?
Hey,
Sorry for the
buddy.
delay, guys.
Oh, that's okay. I was just saying that. I watched. I don't know if you ever seen it because I know you're a YouTube buff too.
Oh yeah,
On YouTube, Arnold Schwarzenegger's
Arnold
speech that
Schwarzenegger.
broke.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
I love.
So for the first time, I mean, I must have seen it in my role, like on my
Yep.
side feed, 100 times. That as well as the Denzel Washington one. Watch this every day if you want to change your life.
Yes.
And
Yep.
yeah, and I watched the Arnold one, and I was just like the perspective I was saying, right, and the accountability he had held himself to, and
Yeah.
how many people wake up in the morning and they're like, oh my God, it's so early, I want to go back to bed, but I got to go to the gym. And his perspective was, no, I'm going to go to the gym because every rep, every single weight I lift is going to get me closer to that Mr. Universe. And
Yeah.
and as much as it it's what it is. It's fact. It's like we don't think about it in those terms. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Oh yeah.
it's great. It's just to me. I mean, I loved it. I watched it. I must have watched it 4 times the other day, and and I watched it again last night in preparation for today because I think it's well, I do believe there's a reason a lot of people say the same thing in 1,000 different ways because each way they say it will kind of hit somebody differently. Gary Vee's big on that. He says, like, I teach three things or four things, he says. I just teach it 1,000 different ways. And eventually one of the ways I teach it, somebody's going to go, that's right. That's it. That's what it
Yes.
is. Right.
Yep. Exactly.
It's
Well,
so
and to and
DJ,
to your
you're sitting there, you're at a family breakfast this morning, and then you
yes,
decide to jump for a family lunch. You decide to jump on this call. So talk to us, man. What's going on?
yeah. So, guys, I am out and about. As you can see, that's why I don't have the good background around me, and we're kind of out here. Out with my dad. It's his 60th birthday today, so we're celebrating that. But did want to jump in, and man, I jumped in at the right time. So I love that Arnold thing that you're talking about. I've listened to it a lot as well, but I don't know if it's he talks about it too, in that same, or it was a different video. But he talked about, somebody that I listened to talked about asking Muhammad Ali when he was in his prime, what, how many crunches or
Sit
sit-ups
ups.
do you do? And
He says, I only start
he
counting
says
when
I
it
only
hurts.
start counting when they hurt.
It was the
That's
same speech. Same speech.
okay. Yeah, same thing. Uh, that that to me, that was my okay. I really know I'm getting to progress when it starts to hurt. It starts to get tough. It starts to really get difficult. Okay, I'm getting somewhere, so I'm just gonna keep pushing, and
You
that
know
really
that that's great when you flip that over to sales calls. You really only start working when you hit a no, right? When that sales
exactly
call is
that first
turning.
no. That should be the punch
Yeah,
in your face. Pow.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's that
Yeah.
first crunch that hurts. And you just keep
Yes.
going and going
Yes.
and going, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, here's the pain. Exactly. Yeah. Here's the pain. Keep it
It's
going.
funny, DJ, because you listen to this, right? And you hear it, and people somewhat process it, or some people process it, some people don't. And then
In
all of
the
a sudden,
in, in the
these
moment
are
when that
the
moment
elite.
comes.
Yeah, but they're the elite of the elite. And it again, I mean, I go back to that perspective. If this is what the elite of the elite do, you know, let's really look at ourselves and say, what the hell are we doing wrong
Well,
to not
and
get there?
and another thing that they talk about, and again, I don't know if it was that speech or a different one, but somebody says in one of them that I listened to, it's you know, all that people see and they think is what is under the bright lights, but it's the hours and hours and hours. Actually, I think it was The Rock. Now that I'm saying it, the hours and hours and hours of time that they spend in the gym, they spend perfecting their craft for us. So we're not working out, we're not physical specimens, clearly, like those guys are. But ours is our brain, and if we're not training that and constantly, eh, and those are the things that nobody sees, and that's what they talk about in those videos as well. That's what people don't see. They see the glory, the lights, the celebration, but they don't know all the hours and hours and hours that these people are either training, practicing, dribbling a basketball if they're a professional basketball player, and just shooting in an empty hoop or dribbling. That's the same thing we got to do to, again. I think it might be the motto of our show, but it's if you want this to be a career, or whatever you do in sales, a career and not just a job, or job, just over broke. You got to put the time in. So
Whoa,
put
just over broke. I love
put
that.
put the put the pain in.
Vijay Singh, um, I remember watching an interview with him, and the guy said, your swing is just beautiful. Like, what do you do? He says, I hit about 2,500 to 3,000 golf balls a day, and like on the
That's a lot of golf
range.
balls.
That's a lot of golf ball. And from somebody who loves the game of golf and who used to play it like a lot and was a very low handicap, I can tell you, I hated the range. Because you want to play golf, you want, like, as much as the range is, it goes, but you want to be
Yes.
on the golf course
You want to
hitting
test
the
your skills.
pins.
Yeah. Yes.
Exactly. But it's not on the golf course where you get better. It's on the range. Then you bring
Exactly.
that to the golf course, right?
Yep.
And sales, I think, is the same way. I think I can't tell you how many hours I looked in the mirror and gave my sales pitch and
and
dreamed
felt
of the
like an
different
idiot.
scenarios.
I mean, let's just,
Oh, one
let's call it out there.
thousand percent.
We
Like,
feel
call a
it
spade a
feels
spade.
so awkward. It feels
Yeah.
so dumb. But once you can really change your mind, I fought back on that. Like I've kind of told in the shows that we do. I've done a lot of sales and done a lot of sales trainings, but it was not until somebody with a martial arts background. He was one of our regionals for a security company I was working for, larger. And he said it's not just practice that makes perfect. It's a martial arts saying, but it's perfect practice makes perfect. So it's the if you're joking around and doing, we in that it was a lot of role playing, and obviously role playing is the same thing. It's very very hard because it's not a real situation, but you have to make it real. You have to practice it real and perfect your skill real, so that then when you're out there, it's just like these pros. That they feel a quarterback feels a blitz coming and they're not even looking. They're looking out in the field. But if you don't have that, you're getting crushed from your blind side every time. And
Hmm.
that's, yeah,
Hmm.
that's different.
It's I'm glad you brought that up because this whole role playing thing. Um, I've been a part of it many, many times. I've shared it with many, many students,
We
and it
kind of
all
do it
comes back
here.
to
I mean,
well, we
we
do.
would
I
do
mean, but
it.
it comes back to I feel weird. I feel weird. And if you talk perspective, you think of actors, right? Like they put themselves into that character and they get paid a lot of money to do it, right? We put ourselves into that character that we
Yes.
practice, we could get
I
paid a lot of money to do it.
Listen, you're on a show, guys. I mean, whoever is in this industry, and if this is the first time you're hearing this, then boom, I'm 8 Miling this shit. But we are actors, okay? We are a different persona. Whatever's going on outside of this car, even is nothing right now. Even though the world could be crazy caving in, my dog just died, my grandma is this, but instantly you're in front of that customer, you're on that phone, you're an actor. You got it. All that stuff
Hmm.
has to go somewhere else. And I hate that it sounds that way, and it sounds very like we're but you can't have that come through to who you're talking to.
Hmm.
If they
Yeah.
feel that,
Well,
just
and
like
not only
commission
that,
prep.
if you talk about I love that perfect practice because you know in our industry we're hit. Okay, so we go back, right, and say, okay, if you ask the same question within a week, you're going to get all the rebuttals, all the objections, or all the directions that question goes. Now you have something to practice, right? A lot of people say, well, I don't know what the person's going to say, so how can I practice? Well, why don't
That's
we figure out what they're going to say and then go and practice that? And it was all, this, the strategy of perfecting my responses really came from documenting, right? Like documenting everything people said to me, and then I would look at it, and this is the perfect practice that we were just talking about. I'd look at it, and it's okay. How can I reply to that better? Like how can I shift the thinking? How can I give my best reply to that? If I forget what you say, how can I ever figure out how to reply better? Like I can't. I can what do they call it? Where you like give half of it or whatever they call it, where
yeah,
you
yeah.
say, okay, I'm
I know
paraphrasing,
exactly. There you go.
paraphrasing.
Yep, yep.
So instead of paraphrasing, let's document it. I mean, obviously we can't record calls, but let's document it. And then that perfection, that not counting your sit-ups till it hurts, that's when it hurts because then you're saying, okay, I need to I remember when I interviewed Randy Gage, who's a prosperity coach. And the big thing, I mean, I've read all his books and I follow him on every social media platform there is. But the big thing with Randy was critical thinking. Like the mass majority of people don't critically think about anything, right? And it's like, okay,
Yeah. You're
that
on
that
automatic. You're
question,
you're on autopilot all the time. That's the problem. It's it, it
100%. You
and
nailed
and
that.
and
Nailed
that's
it.
where That's where practice comes from. You want to
Yeah.
practice those auto responses, because if you don't, your bad responses are always going to come through first.
Mhm.
Whatever your bad habits are, they're coming through. I mean, that's yeah.
Yeah,
You're
it's
so right.
huge. And it's I guess it's that, perspective. Because I mean, everything starts with perspective. No matter what we do, we everything starts with perspective.
Everything.
Oh, that call wasn't good. That person didn't want my service. Where they could have been the top customer you ever have. And we
Yeah.
don't explore it that much. I
Yeah.
I, I can recall vividly, before I started really diving in and realizing that first no is where everything starts. I'm not interested. I'm happy with my supplier. Okay, thank you very much. And I'd hang up the phone, and I would equate it to, oh, well, they were happy. Like, I'm still making sales calls. They were happy, instead of trying to find that gold in why they're happy. Because if they're ecstatic like that, how can I flip that around and use that for another customer? So maybe when the next person calls, they're going to say, I'm good with my guy. And,
What?
so I would always then say, okay, well, Mr. Prospect, that is awesome. What makes them so good that you don't even want to hear what I have to say? And
Boom.
yeah,
That's
I found that question was the beginning of the sit ups when they started to hurt with Muhammad Ali.
and so the flip side to that, because yes, you're so right with what you're saying about that's going to give you even more depth of why, what makes them so good that they don't want to listen, but then even more, guys. So then it's okay, well, what are they doing? And now I need to ask my customers, oh, well, these people won't even talk to anybody else because this their supplier is currently doing, am I doing this, or do I need to do this better? Because then you now, maybe it's, and you see the value of it. Maybe it's just that customer, or maybe it's your all of your customers, maybe it's all the customers. So again, it's just tweaking that and always digging. That's the thing, guys. What we're trying to really do here with this show and with sales is you always have to be evolving, uh, with
Mm.
information, with technology, with everything that's going on. I mean, again, I can't hold my phone up, but this phone that we all have now has more information and knowledge than the president of the United States 50 years ago could get a hold of.
I knew you were going there the second you
They
said
had
phone.
you know, and so it's a different world. There's no, and so the people who are still stuck in the Dale Carnegie trainings of the world and the really old school mind screw of the world of sales, it's not that game anymore. People aren't stupid. Don't lie to people. They can find the information for themselves now, and that's where it's, you got to evolve. Grant Cardone is why I'm saying it. His Sell or Be Sold, one of his best books. I've
Oh,
read it quite a few
that's
times.
actually a really good book.
But Sell or
That's
Be
actually
Sold,
really, they're either
it's either
selling
you're
you on the
selling,
fact that, yeah, selling you on the fact that they
somebody's
don't want your
somebody's always
business.
doing a sale. There's
Yeah.
always a sale and there's always a commission, guys. That's when you can really think of life that way, it changes everything.
It's funny because it was in 10X, his book 10X, but when he was talking about, and I don't know if you and I have spoken about this before, but when he was talking about, he was watching a game on a Sunday afternoon, and his buddy was texting him saying, "Hey, listen, you watching the game?" He's like, "Yeah, but don't you need that 10 grand for your business?" And the guy says, "Yeah," and he says, "So why are you watching the game? Go get that 10 grand. And by the way, you don't need the 10 grand, you need 100 grand, because you always underestimate, and it's
Ten times.
again."
Gotta think 10 times all the
10x, right?
time.
But again,
10x.
you look at that. This is the goal, and this is my route to get there. And you might think the route's this big, but you got to make the route this big in order to get there because of what's involved, right? I mean, it's huge how we. Yeah, Ryan says no background today, DJ.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Sorry,
yeah,
Ryan. I'm sorry,
yeah.
man. I'm on the road. Actually, that they're about to walk up to the truck, so I might have to take off here. But
That's okay. We'll end it a bit early today. We're already up 20 minutes, and it's a Friday, and it's more of a casual, hey, hoorah, rah, rah day. But I
that's
guess,
right.
you know what? In closing, DJ, because you got some things you got to do. Perspective, my friends. Perspective,
Perspective.
perspective, perspective. Always be focusing. Take the Arnold Schwarzenegger strategy. Every rep he did, every weight he lifted, every minute he spent in the gym got him closer to Mr. Universe. Every rep you do, every call you make, every question you ask, everything you document, everything you improve on gets you closer to your 2 comma club, your $1 million GP.
Figure
Have a
out your
great
goal.
weekend.
That's right. Figure out your goal, set your goal, guys. Perspective is everything. There's only two ways to look at a glass. It's either half full or half empty. The way you look at that is the way you're going to look at everything else, guys. Have